Great. Well, thank you, Chairman Menendez and Ranking Member Risch and members of the committee. It's a real honor to testify and also present my recommendations, the recommendations of FDD's Iran program. It's also a great honor to testify alongside Kareem Sajapur. With the talks currently stalled, the Biden administration remains certainly committed, you heard from Mr. Mali, to taking America back to an even shorter and weaker version of the JCPOA. And if that deal occurs, the United States is going to pay an enormously high price for short-term nuclear restrictions that last less than a decade. We estimate that Iran will receive $275 billion in sanctions relief in the first year, $800 billion by 2027, and over $1 trillion by 2031. This is all detailed in my testimony on pages 14 and 17. Perhaps Mr. Mali should present his alternative estimates to the committee if he disputes what we've assessed. Of course, this is all going to be a goldmine for Iran's IRGC to fuel its repression, its regional aggression, and global terrorism. And as the committee has noted, the problem with this agreement is that it doesn't put Iran's program back in a box. In fact, if anything, it's going to leap forward like a jack-in-the-box. The deal initially increases breakout time from 3 weeks to 4 to 6 months. The Israeli estimate is closer to 4 months. But Iran's nuclear program is going to expand over time. Breakout time drops. And key restrictions are going to sunset after a few years. In fact, by 2031, most of the restrictions are gone, including the ban on weapons-grade uranium, which is quite remarkable. I want to emphasize that to the committee. By 2031, the ban on Iran producing weapons-grade enriched uranium will be gone. Now, constraints on advanced centrifuge installation begin disappearing in 2024. Breakout time actually drops to less than a month by 2027, and to near zero after that. And after 2031, under the agreement, Iran's nuclear program can legally expand and harden in multiple sites across the country. And at that point, neither the United States nor Israel may have the bombs to destroy these hardened and dispersed facilities. So bottom line is, in exchange for $1 trillion windfall for the regime, the deal only provides 4 to 6 months of additional breakout time that expires after 7 years. And Iran becomes a much more dangerous and wealthier nuclear threshold state with multiple pathways to nuclear weapons and ICBMs to hold American cities hostage. As one of the senators noted, a lot of the UN snapback goes away in 2025. The conventional arms embargo is already gone. The missile embargo is gone next year. Now, President Biden should be commended for refusing to remove the IRGC from the FTO list, but this committee needs to be on guard. Iran has a track record of making outrageous demands in order to trade them for egregious concessions. The administration might try to sell Congress that they held the line on the outrageous so that they can accept the egregious, and we should be wary of that negotiating and marketing strategy. The question also of Congress is how the administration can contemplate lifting terrorism sanctions on the Central Bank of Iran and the national Iranian oil and tanker companies, all of which finance the IRGC and all of which are contemplated as sanctions relief under a return to the JCPOA. I also want to emphasize that the administration and Congress really needs to support American victims of Iranian terrorism in their recovery of over $50 billion in U.S. court judgments. Over 1,000 Gold Star family members recently wrote to President Biden asking him to maintain the FTO designation and as well block sanctions relief until Iran settles these judgments. We've talked about how all of these fatal flaws are compounded by Russia's role, the $10 billion that Russia is expected to get under a nuclear contract with Iran, the fact that Putin may also hold Iran's fissile material. So while he threatens to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, he effectively becomes the guarantor of Iran's nuclear behavior. Now, the central problem with the current policy is that Khamenei does not believe that the president will use severe sanctions or force. And we've talked about it at this hearing. Most of Iran's nuclear expansion, including enrichment to 20% and 60%, occurred after the election of President Biden, who pledged during the election to stop the maximum pressure campaign. You'll see in Exhibit A of my testimony a very detailed timeline that demonstrates that. He also took advantage of the Biden administration's refusal to censure Iran at the IAEA Board of Governors. Hopefully in June that will change if Mr. Mali's commitment is followed through. He also doesn't fear the Biden administration with respect to the use of military force or any other coercive measures. And that's why he's going to do for decades what he's done for the past few decades, which is he's going to escalate the nuclear program as these enrichment restrictions sunset, he's going to intensify his regional aggression, and he's going to immunize the regime against sanctions pressure using this trillion-dollar windfall. He's also going to develop nuclear ICBMs to hold our cities hostage. There is a plan B. I have 16 specific recommendations in my testimony that cover that, and I look forward to discussing those and other issues with you in the Q&A. Thank you very much.